welcome to another edition of HR Weekly. Today we'll be taking a deep dive into an up-and-coming business in Gainesville, Florida, Gosa One Coffee, where they say it is a place for people to gather, relax, and enjoy all that they have to offer. We are here today to show you a look behind the scenes of the inner workings of how they run their company. Over the next few minutes, we will be telling you a little bit more about the policies and procedures that apply directly to the stars of their company, the barista. We will be covering a variety of topics, including the basic job description, recruitment, training and development, and much, much more. I'm your host, Scott Malley. You stick around as we get started with HR Weekly. As I said, today we will be talking about the central job at Gosa One Coffee, the barista. The barista is the primary point of contact for all customers. The ideal candidate will have a positive attitude and great customer service skills. They will be responsible for quickly creating rapport with customers to create long-term and repeat customers. Gosa One Coffee will focus on competing brands of coffee shops, sometimes spending hours in the shop to evaluate the staff. They will identify what the staff does well, what they should work on, and identify passive candidates who may be willing to join this new company. They will also focus on people with outstanding customer service, bubbly personalities, and people who are gregarious. Because of their focusing on people with a certain type of personality, they may have desperate impact on older people looking for work. As I mentioned before, they will have to be aware that they are focusing on a younger type of employee who is still very energetic about work and the very simple task of making coffee, but also has to be able to function quickly. This may disqualify disabled or elderly people from making the coffee because they would need to be able to move quickly for fast service. Bona fide occupational qualifications of this role include someone who can work in a fast-paced environment and work without assistance. If candidates for employment are capable of performing all the BFOQs, they will be employable. If they are unable, they would be considered for roles outside of the central job. Next up for our barista at Gosa One Coffee is a deep dive job analysis. Enthusiastic customer service is key, as well as the ability to operate all machines from a milk steamer to cash register. There are three most essential tasks for a barista, and that includes customer service and coffee knowledge, operation of machinery, and finally maintaining stock. We will now discuss a list of 5 job dimensions and specify 2 specific tasks within each dimension that were created for the barista position at Gosa One Coffee. First, decision, communication, general responsibilities, deciding who is in charge of which coffee station, and communicating to promote a team effort for satisfying customer needs. Number 2, technical related activities, perfected operation of coffee maker, etc., perfected operation of register. Number 3, service related activities, quick creation of drinks to handle rush hour times, efficient handling of sales. Number 4, routine repetitive work activities, store management including opening and closing of the store and keeping stock of all products, and maintenance, care, and cleaning of all machines. And number 5, public customer related contact activities, dealing with customer complaints and using knowledge of products to answer customer questions. Finally, we will talk about the 4 most important tasks for a barista, and they are deciding who is in charge of which coffee station, communicating to promote a team effort for satisfying customer needs, quick creation of drinks to handle rush hour times, and using knowledge of products to answer customer questions. Now let's take a look at labor shortage or surplus options. With the labor surplus, Gosa One will have the following options: retraining, early retirement, natural attrition, hiring freeze, work sharing, transfers, demotions, pay reductions, and downsizing. Of course, these options are dealing with current staff and how they would handle the labor surplus within the company. When they have too many employees and they need to scale back, they will need to decide how quickly they must deal with the surplus, as well as which options will cause the least human suffering. Transfers and work sharing would be ideal solutions, since both of these options can be done quickly with only a medium amount of human suffering involved. However, they would probably rely mostly on downsizing and pay reductions. They are a fast action solution that will help the company's bottom line. With the recent economy, we can conceivably predict a labor surplus in the near future. This surplus will allow Gosa One Coffee to carefully choose the correct staff that fits their required KSAOs. With so many people looking for work right now, they will need to make sure that they are not wasting a lot of time and resources training people who are just going to use the company as a stepping stone for their chosen profession. They want to do all they can to lower the typical turnover rate of coffee houses. Unemployment was 8.3% in January, and although that is much lower than the 10% unemployment rate back in October of 2009, it is still much higher than the unemployment rate of 4.4% back in March of 2007. However, even when the unemployment rate is lower, they will most likely still have a labor surplus because being a barista does not require a college degree, so their application pool for their central job would be large. Of course, they still need to focus on their KSAOs and specialized training to make sure that they pick the best of the pack. Moving on, let's take a look at Go Someone Coffee's recruitment strategy. Go Someone Coffee will definitely have to focus on external sources instead of internal sources for their hiring needs. With a small coffee house, they do not have a large internal staff to recruit from, so outside sources will definitely be more beneficial. Direct applicants, referrals, and from current staff and advertisements will probably be the chosen recruiting sources. These three sources will provide types of potential employees who already know about their business and how they operate. The position characteristics that will sell to recruits will be location and job core characteristics. Obviously, location is a big selling point to the recruits because they want a position close to home. The core job characteristics are also an important selling point because they explain what would be required of the recruits, and then the potential applicants can make their decisions based off their knowledge of required skills. Human resource management practices that will sell their company are individual orientation, extensive socialization, and simple tasks. The recruits will appreciate the individual orientation style because they will learn more from a one-on-one training session. The daily tasks that are required of a barista are not extremely complex, and recruits looking for a simple daily routine will enjoy their work. Lastly, recruits who enjoy extensive socialization will enjoy their work days because a barista spends a lot of their day talking with numerous customers, giving the barista an opportunity for a little verbal dialogue that will break up the monotonous job that a barista undertakes each day. Let's look at what kind of leader Go Someone Coffee is looking for. A bubbly, go-getter attitude is by far one of the stronger characteristics they're looking for in candidates. On top of this, they must also have superior leadership skills and an ability to work together and motivate employees. A candidate with these attributes will be willing to go to great lengths to meet the company's expectations. They will also be willing to learn the ins and outs of operating machinery and therefore will be more trainable for knowledge and skills than someone with poor attitude. Anyone can make a proper cup of coffee with a little training, but truly providing a service includes kindness, question clarification, information, quality, and swift service, as well as managing their most important resource, the team of employees. It is what will set the outstanding managerial candidate apart from the lackluster ones. Sustained competitive advantage stems from resources that are valuable, rare, inimitable, and non-substitutable. Anyone can buy special coffee beans and brew them, aka not grounds for sustained competitive advantage. This is why they have said their candidates must have the necessary attributes to manage their team effectively to keep their product a full package of quality coffee and unparalleled service. When looking at management candidates, Go Someone Coffee will use a cognitive ability test to measure required knowledge and skills, and will use personality inventory tests to measure abilities and other characteristics. The single most important task that Go Someone Coffee asks their employees to perform is to provide unparalleled customer service. Anyone can sell a cup of coffee, but they bring customers back time and time again by providing them with full experience and not just a cup of joe. It's hard to train someone to be a people person and excel at customer service. If these requirements are not met during the hire process, this could put a hindrance on the training as a company. The easiest way for Go Someone Coffee to deal with this hindrance would be to make sure that they are hiring the right people and put the time into hiring the right type of people to fill this role. If someone does slip through the cracks, it will cost them a lot of time, money, and effort to effectively train them for this role, if they're trainable at all. They will use high leverage training so they can link their strategic business goals and have top management support. They will rely on an instructional design model and try to benchmark to programs in other organizations. 3 ways of performance measurement. First, time to serve. Time will be measured on randomly selected days, measuring service from both order placed to order served and from line entered to order served. Number 2, taste. Taste will be measured for random products at random intervals to ensure quality. And third, overall customer service. Surveys will be taken for both frequent customers and a random sample of customers to ensure best-in-class customer service. The good, the bad, and the ugly. Let's take a look at Gosa One Coffee's take on employee separation. Organizational commitment is an important aspect of employee retention. Employees who do not feel committed to the company have a higher chance of retaliating against the company, especially during hard economic times. However, studies do show that the types of employees most likely to engage in workplace thefts are ones who have been employed with the company for about 8 years. Another interesting fact is that employees with graduate degrees usually do the most damage to the company with their theft. Most likely, their central position would not be someone with a graduate degree or even 8 years experience with the company. However, this does not mean that they will take the issue of theft lightly. With that in mind, they will organize ways to build their commitment that employees feel for their organization so that they may stay invested in the company. Of course, they provide their employees with above average wages as well as an identity within the company. Great feedback to understanding what is required of their employees and fair work hours will all come together to prevent intended voluntary turnover. They give their employees every reasonable opportunity to advance within the company, creating commitment all-stars, providing a family work environment where everyone looks out for one another and everyone is willing to lend a helping hand. These actions will go a long way to building organizational commitment. Employee satisfaction with the work itself and the people with whom they work will create an effective commitment. Whereas flexibility programs, reasonable wages, and the chance for promotion within the company create continuous commitment. The company will have an extensive employee handbook that details what they expect of their employees, and the handbook will include a list of possible offenses in which the employee might receive reprimanding. Of course, they reserve the right to amend this list at any time using their professional discretion. Their termination policy involves a 3-offense rule. After the first offense, employees are given a verbal warning. This verbal warning will go onto their permanent file, and the employee will understand what is expected and that negative action needs to stop. The second offense will be a written warning, with the understanding that should another offense occur, the employee will be placed on suspension without pay. Should the employee receive their third offense, the employee will be immediately terminated. Some actions that might be considered an offense are stealing of money or supplies, rude to customers or other employees, tardiness, lack of personal hygiene, and subordination. If for unseen circumstances they must lay off an employee, they will provide as much notice to the employee as possible. If the employee has worked for their company for less than 6 months, they will provide them with a 1-week notice of termination. If the employee has worked for their company for 6 months or longer, they will provide them with 2 weeks notice of termination. Of course, termination time frames can be altered based on the reason for the layoff. Finally, today we'll be talking about how Gosa One Coffee will recognize a merit pay system works best for their central position, the barista. A merit pay system is built on increases employee pay on a yearly basis, and employee pay is directly related to the employee's performance. Merit pay will foster cooperation with others, line of sight with the strategic goals of the company, and it will make the employees feel instrumental within the organization in the most basic sense. When employees know that their pay scale is based on how well they perform, the employees see that their actions have consequences within their company. They want them to perform at their best, not just because they want a larger paycheck, but because they see the benefits that a good work ethic can achieve within the company. When the employee sits down yearly to discuss their performance appraisal, Gosa One Coffee plans to discuss how important the employee is to their organization and that their hard work will be reflected in an increase in their pay. Here's a detailed example of the planned Gosa One Coffee review process. Once a year, employees sit down with management to discuss their performance throughout the previous year. This is a time for employees to discuss any problems or concerns they might be having, although they will encourage this open communication throughout the year as well. The performance review is also the time for the manager to discuss any issues that they have seen with the employee's performance to date. Of course, this is also a time to discuss the actions that the employee has been doing great with and reward them accordingly. The company has a budget for annual pay increases that will range from 3 to 6% based on employee performance. Although there is some criticism that a merit-based pay system does not encourage employees to work harder, they believe that it's the best system for their central position. And that's Gosa One Coffee in a nutshell. Or should I say in a coffee bean shell. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of HR Weekly and learned a lot about Gosa One Coffee and how they will run their business. Be on the lookout for the opening of Gosa One Coffee coming soon to Gainesville, Florida. Until next time, I'm Scott Value for HR Weekly. Have a great night.